I'm
Hey
just going.
everybody, just give me the introduction for a sec. It's May 25th and we're meeting on a Thursday to talk about marketing, what we've done that works, what we've done that maybe hasn't worked, share our ideas, and just help support everybody. So Lisa's here mostly hosting today. Thanks for all coming. Lisa, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just taking a look to see. Oh, Dan actually did make it today, so that's good. I mean, there's a lot of you there. I wanted mostly the interns and the junior associates to attend today. Andreas, are you finally in Langley? Good, good. Because those of you that, you guys are the ones that are sort of struggling to build your practices. And so we had meant to do sort of like a marketing brainstorming kind of powwow kind of thing. We've been talking about it for a long time. We tried to schedule it, just didn't work out. So I thought, well, why don't we just do a Zoom on one of the days that you're already here for peer supervision? So what I wanted to do is I'm wondering if I could get a note taker. Maybe actually, Jerry Lind, can you take the notes when you're finished eating? It's all good. And then basically it's just the brainstorming. It's not note taking. I just wanted us to sort of do like a shout out. So what we can do is just create a list of different ideas for you guys. Some of you can maybe share some of your successes of what you've done to be able to build your clientele. And some of you can sort of share like where you're struggling and maybe we can give you some ideas. So as much as I'm facilitating the session, I am actually looking for you guys for your input because we just want to help support you. We've had a bunch of success stories in Kelowna. And so we have some members here today from that site. So that'd be cool to get their feedback because they're out in the community a lot and doing lots of good stuff. So yeah, maybe I guess I would like to throw out there, maybe we can sort of start with some ideas. Maybe people just put their hand up and share like something they've done that works really, really well to help you build your practice. We could do it like anybody could just start, I think.
And if no one's willing to start, I asked somebody to come today that does have a little bit of a time limit. So Stacy, I was hoping you would share your what you and Jamie did when you were interns, because I think that would be just helpful because we already talked about today. I'd really like to get out before you have to run.
Literally run. I really appreciate that you called me out like that. I was totally, as soon as you started talking, I'm like, she's calling on me. Yeah, for sure. So happy to be here, happy to share. I mean, yeah, so when I first started, in order to get clients in, so I really looked into my specific niches. So sorry, that's not even the right word. It wasn't niches. I would say they're more like things that were unique about myself. So one being that I'm a type 1 diabetic, and one being that I attend church. And so the first thing I did is I reached out to my diabetic specialist. And I really utilized that network because it was a network that was very unique to myself. And so I was able to, sit with her in her clinic and discuss like the options as far as counseling. Chronic illness is a big passion of mine. And so that was kind of one direction that I started with. And then Jamie, who was another intern at the time, who was also a church attender, we got together and we created an introduction email. And then what we did is we essentially just sent emails to all of the churches in Surrey, Langley, and Abbotsford, introducing ourselves and providing information for, people to reach out. We introduced ourselves as interns, that we offered, lower rate counseling if it was needed, things like that. And it just opened the door for opportunity to have different communication with whatever pastors or administrative staff. And so we got some good, solid contacts back from that. I actually ended up becoming the go-to counselor for one pastor who just planted a church. And so he sends all of his members to me. And I think I've got 5 of them now, which is pretty cool. And so, yeah, it's really just about figuring out what makes you unique, not just as a counselor, but also as a person, and what kind of maybe skills that you have that don't seem like skills. So for me, one is my health, and it just is something that I deal with. But it turned out to be something that was really effective in reaching out to that community as well. So I would say that, my practice has continued to build because I also rebook clients and I remind people to come back. And the sooner you get them back, the more likely they are to stay. So definitely utilize that as well. But that's kind of,
I think that that's a huge thing to bring up, Stacey, is that what we're finding is that as the clinic gets larger and larger, we have 17 rooms, 2 front doors, various different suites, is that what's happening is that the counselors who are not actually rebooking the clients in their room right away in that first session, those are the ones that are letting them walk out the door, making an assumption they're going to the front desk. And so those are, super missed opportunities because basically in order for you guys to like build your practice and recoup the investment and all the things that you do in terms of your degree and all that, you have to rebook. And typically a typical client on a short-term solution focused therapy would be minimum of 6. But on average, most clients book minimum of about 12 on average. Like that's, somebody with extended health. And when you put together a case conceptualization plan. So if you're not rebooking them and you're letting them walk out the door, then that's such huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And don't rely on the front desk to rebook them and follow up because they don't have time for that. So I've seen the consistency because Stacey rebooked, right? And then the next week she'd get another third client, and then she'd rebook them, and then a fourth client. And before you knew it, probably I would say, Stacey, within at least a month or two, you're like, whoa, slow down.
yeah, I mean, I had the benefit of being one of the only interns at the time. So that was a little bit of a fire hose. But I definitely didn't force them to come back. They did that on their own. And so definitely like lean in. I know admin staff, it's nice to have that support. When it comes to rebooking, it makes way more sense to do it in the room. Because no client wants to stop at the front desk on their way out, right? They're like, oh, I'm done here. I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go for coffee, or I'm going to go meet a friend, or go cry in my car. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to send them back to admin to rebook. And you have the opportunity then to really dive deep and say, well, I do think, that you're going to want to come back for multiple sessions. So why don't we get a couple booked in because my schedule fills fast? And they're usually happy to do that because you offer them the 48 hours notice of change of time and let them know that they're not locked in, right? If they need to, they can change it closer to the date. But yeah, definitely rebook in the room.
And I also think, to your point, they don't really want to stand at a front desk with a bunch of people in a waiting room while their eyes are bloodshot red and they're crying, right? That's often why we actually get them to pay up front as well, so that they're paying up front, dealing with anything they need to deal with the debit machine, and then they go into the session and then they come out, they're already rebooked, and they leave through the side door.
Totally.
It's brilliant.
Charlene, go ahead. You're muted.
Yes, sorry. Just to add to that point, it was probably about 6 months in about rebooking. At the end of my sessions, especially with different demographics, because I kind of have like a notebook of like demographics and certain, qualities and needs that different people have. And one of the things that people said about, rebooking in the room with them is that they want to be guided. They wanted to be led. They wanted an action plan so that they felt really supported that way. So even if it was a little arduous, I'd go a few minutes over because sometimes it took longer than it was supposed to be. And I'd always give them the cancellation, option as well, or the virtual option, or that they could look at my schedule online as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks, Charlene. That's smart. That's what I try to impress upon everybody at the beginning when they take training, but there's groups of people that didn't get the same training. So you're absolutely right. And I say that to everybody. To Stacey's point and to Charlene's point, the client is trusting you, right? You're building the relationship with them. So yes, they like admin, and admin is caring, and admin is helpful, and they see them smile at them on the way in, but they don't trust admin as the professional. So if admin says, so when would we like to get you scheduled back in? They're like, I don't know. Isn't that the job of the person we just paid? to tell me when I should be coming back. So it's really not ideal. It's not because admin is lazy or we don't want you to use them. It's because you have the relationship with them, and based on your treatment plan and your conceptualization, that's when you say, okay, we're at the end today, and I know we have these goals or these topics we didn't touch on. I'd really like to see you within a 2-week window. Do you think that's doable? And then we just get the schedule and start booking, because you will get a feel for that. You don't want to leave it a month if something's raw for somebody, or if you missed it in that session. You're gonna be like, oh, we'll talk about it in a month. If you didn't get to it, you should know how soon you want to talk to them based on how urgent it was for that client. Go ahead, Brent.
I was just gonna, I mean, I'm pretty new. I don't know how new everybody is, but I'm pretty new since January. But when I had my strength and conditioning company and I had trainers, when I was training them, it's a little bit more pressure because they're not coming, they don't have benefits, it's money out of their pocket. And you would say that first session, when they come in for their free trial or their initial session, you always get them to commit, because you've given them a taste of what you are and who you are and a snapshot of that, and you're already starting to build a relationship in that first session. And so while they feel a connection with you in that moment, that's when you, and it's sales, so it's not really therapy or counseling, it's sales. When they're feeling a connection, when they're feeling excited about the opportunity, that's when you pitch it at them and get it down. Because the second they walk out the door and somebody goes, oh, poo on that for trying that, or like whatever, or something happens, they get distracted then. So that's basic sales. You do your pitch, then you say, when can I sign you up? While it's fresh and in their mind. I mean, not in a pressure way. And a real thing that's worked for me well since I started in January is when people come in, I kind of preemptively book a couple sessions after, because my assumption is going to be that I'm going to make a connection with them because that's my job, and then I've got that space, and then I don't inform them when I book those sessions. I just say, listen, I've got you booked for free to see like how do you feel about it, and do you want to keep going? Because the admin team, it's busy, and if I don't book far enough ahead, they'll put somebody in that slot, and I don't want to give that slot. Like, I'm committed to you now. I don't want to give up that time to anybody else. So can we get ahead of it a little bit, even if I can get them to do 3 to 6 sessions, and everybody pretty much is happy that I'm taking care of them like that.
Well, the other thing too to keep in mind is also that they get their preferred time and slot the time, right? Especially when you're working with kids where it's a little bit more limited, or parents that have kids with activities. So when they're booking in, they know every second Tuesday at 4 o'clock, that's their spot. Right. And so it helps them to consistently come at the same time. And it is their time for themselves in terms of self-care.
Yeah, I think Brent's right. Those are very good tips. I mean, it's not something I've done, but my clients, I think, have suffered for it, in the sense that I'm too busy, my schedule is totally full, and by the time they come in and realize they need more help or want another session, I'm already booked 2 to 3 weeks out, and I can't get them in unless I work outside my hours. So I'm making exceptions for people all the time to fit them in. I think Brent is smart. Make the connection with them and tell them, if we don't reserve some time for you, it's unlikely that time will still be available when you go and look at the website or call the admin desk. So why don't we just reserve it? And then if we need to make a change, we can. So I like Charlene's point and Brent's point. You can always change or cancel or go virtual if necessary. But if you don't reserve your time, you don't get your time.
And then what happens too is that you can experience as a counselor burnout, because that's what happened to Marianne and I, right? Because our hearts bleed and we like, okay, well, our shift is only supposed to be 9 to 5, but then we sneak them into 6, and then we call the husband and say, can you pick up the kids? And then you get in a fight with the husband because he's right, and it goes on and on and on and on, right? So it's about setting boundaries for yourself.
Yeah. 100%.
I've heard many of the interns also at the end of their videos saying, oh, this is one of those things that we could really work on next time, and really get them motivated on the theme that they're working on, and add on a little bit more, like, oh, boundaries hadn't come up before, but I noticed those today. So we could sure look at that next time.
I'm laughing at Fred's comment. Oh, great. We're led by a couple of burnouts. Yeah, we are pretty burnt out lately, but hopefully we have lots of support here with Jerry Lynn and Stacy and Darlene and Michael helping us. But you know, that's a good problem to have, right? If you can build your practice, that means you've done a great job. Let's talk about a little bit about community work. Stacey mentioned a little bit. What are some ideas or some things that you guys have done out in the community that you found have been helpful to sort of target your niche market?
Jerry Lynn, do you have a different comment or are you answering Lisa's current question?
Answering that one.
Okay, go ahead.
So, when I became an FNHA provider, I went to the local First Nations organization. I asked if I could attend the staff meetings to meet everybody, talk about the services I have to offer, that kind of thing. I've got a few clients from that. So definitely asking to attend staff meetings when people can put a face to the name and know where the resources are, they'll come to you.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very good idea. I think we're trying to do something like that in Kelowna with the First Nations or some kind of community in the same building as us, right?
Yeah, you guys just did a workshop there. We should actually put on Slack. I want some feedback in terms of how that went. I'll write that down because that's another topic, but
yeah, great. Thank you. Brent, go ahead.
I was just going to say too, just in terms of marketing yourselves, I mean, this isn't really a community thing in terms of approaching other groups, but we all have past lives. That sounds dark. We all have our former professions and our places that we came from. And it's a different capacity that we're existing with those people now. But if they've been with us or we had positive connections with them and they see us as good people who are trying to do good things and are helpers, which they probably do, reach out to them, like shake the bushes as much as you can. Because a lot of us are very shy. We're very like, oh, well, I don't want to put anybody out, and I don't want to brag and things like that. But you're not. You're just saying, listen, I value our relationship, and if you know anybody who's looking for help, can you provide my name, right? And I think it helps to clarify. I think a lot of us are afraid to approach the people that we know because you're not supposed to counsel your friends or friends and family.
yeah.
But when I was concerned about that, I think I asked Lisa or Marianne, and they said, okay, well, here's the definition of counseling your friends. Are they in your circle? So if something happened and the relationship broke down, are they such a big part of your life that you would be really, really missing them when they left? And if not, then they're more of an acquaintance than they are a friend or social circles or things like that. So that's just my 2 cents.
Putting the stuff on Facebook, right? Like we have a lot of questions around like, can I put my, and what I did is that I remember I was on I had ran for school trustee in our town, so I had a lot of friends on Facebook, but I'd be like, hey, anybody, just let you know I just started this internship at this amazing site and they offer low cost of free counseling. If you know anybody who's looking for free counseling, send them to the clinic, not necessarily to me, but I mean that's where I got a ton of and it's from those early days that we still get the posts on Langley Moms, right? Because people started getting to know me from those original posts, and then they started speaking about me on Langley Moms. And now, whenever there's a post on Langley Moms for counselors in any given day, we're getting hit about 12 people putting comments. So Facebook is a good tool, although Facebook is fading out a little bit. So there's other social media. There's a lot of counselors now that are using TikTok. I don't know if you've seen that. So that's another avenue to kind of get younger generation.
To Brent's point, I was saying today, we did a panel interview with some new intern applicants, and I was saying to them today, you have to be shameless in your marketing when you are in private practice. Like you have to tell everyone, hey, do you know that I'm an intern now and I'm working with people, and if you know anyone, you can tell your best friends, and your best friends have friends that you're not friends with, or cousins or family members or whatever. Don't worry too much about conflicts of interest, because if we identify that it's a conflict, we can give them to one of your colleagues. So you should be matching up very early on with other interns, so that anybody close to you that you can get that wants to come for counseling, but you can't see them, you give them to the other person, and that other person gives theirs to you. So you want to get to know your colleagues real quick, especially as interns, because that will happen. We want you to spread the word far and wide. You really just can't be shy about it. Brent got his hours in 4 months for a reason. because he
Yeah.
tapped all of his social networks and everybody he knew in past communities and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. And it was just client after client after client. So it does work, but you got to just get out there with a bit of confidence, right? Spread the word.
Yeah, and to your point, like somebody on Facebook can share your post, right? So they're sharing for you. What about local communities? Like, I don't know if some of you have some local, like rec centers, the local Starbucks across the street, doctor's offices, health centers. Go ahead, Pradeep.
Trying to find the unmute button. So we had a person from Boulevard Magazine. I don't know if you've ever heard them before. Is a really great magazine for the Okanagan. She had come up to us at our last event, for the Do Not Sugarcoat It podcast event that we had gone to, me and Naomi.
Yeah.
And she came up to us and gave us, you know, her business card, and we met with her today. We kind of wanted to see what she wanted to say before we brought it up to you guys. And she wants to do a spread about Crossroads in this Boulevard magazine. And I'll get you all the numbers after for the ads and stuff. She wants to get us in for the December issue. But I think that would be a great way to get our name out there, because Boulevard Magazine are at the lawyer's office, are at the doctor's offices, are at every office that you can go to in town. They go to all the high marketed areas in this town. Like, I've been reading this magazine since I was 10. That's how big it is in Kelowna. It's one of the biggest magazines in the BC area for local things that are happening in your town.
So what happened here, just to give you guys a little bit of background, is that we got invited, I got invited to do a podcast. How many of you actually watched the podcast? Put up your hands. Yay. So I got invited to this podcast with a local group in Kelowna, a local group of ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they invited us to sponsor one of their events, which was a ladies event in person, because usually their podcast is a podcast. And so we got invited, and then Naomi and Pradeep went, and they made some connections. So all that came about because, you know, somebody emailed me and said, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And so you
Mhm.
see how it's building, right?
Mhm.
It takes one, as a salesperson, as a previous salesperson for my whole life. Oh, you know, people say, what do you think one of your secrets to success is? And I said, I never let one lead not be followed up on.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't know what door is going to open up next and next. So you got to look for opportunities.
Yeah.
And then when you'll find that when you do put the effort out, it'll come back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I think it's a great opportunity. She wants both of you guys, because we told her all about how, you know, you and Marianne are like the owners, and you guys set this up, and you guys worked hard to make it what it is. And she wants the whole Kelowna, and for the spread in December, she wants the whole Kelowna counselors, EMDRs, both you and Marianne, to come down to do a photo shoot of the office, and interviews for the magazine.
Awesome. That's wonderful. That's great.
And Naomi, good job.
And that's in the fall?
I'm sorry,
When did you say again?
when is it?
When does she want to do that?
She wants to do the major spread in December, but she
Perfect.
wants us to put the ad up in there for the next 2 issues, which will be released in July and October.
Okay,
So
because
that,
that's what we're,
so that
I'm not
the little ad gets placed into the magazine before the big spread.
okay, because yeah, it would be ideal, because we're Marianne and I are not really available July, August
Yeah.
to work on
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we thought that was ideal too, because when do most people need counseling? In the winter.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
the fact that we'll have the ad out for the previous 2 issues before the big spread in the magazine for December, I think that would be an amazing way to get our name out there.
Okay,
Awesome.
Okay.
awesome.
So Gurdeep, did you explain the event that you went to? Because you guys kind of spoke at it. It was like almost like a women's networking event, right? Called Mama.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing event, and it was a great way to socialize, and it was a great way of networking. These amazing ladies that were there, they were moms, they were business owners, they were everything you can think of. And it was a smaller group, so it was easier to get that connection with people. And so we met a lot of great people that night.
Yeah, the only feedback that I would give on the next event is make sure that every one of you has a time to speak.
Yeah.
Because that's the connection piece to them
Yeah.
to know, am I gonna like this person? I mean,
Yeah.
granted, you talk to lots of people at the back of the room, or people came up to
Yeah.
the table, but you might have that person that maybe was too shy to approach you. But if they speak, they would get a sense of who you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, we look forward to doing that on Saturday for the next event that's coming up for Wise Women. So
Awesome. Yeah, I hear you guys are working hard, getting ready for it.
So Gurdeep also did a radio ad, right? Did you talk about that yet?
I did. I got one client from there so far.
Oh, good for
I
you.
actually did it. I actually had a session with them yesterday. It was a couple.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And they told you, they heard you on the radio?
Yeah. She's like, I listened to Move 101.5 all day long. So when I was going to work, I heard your ad. And I was like, yeah, it's time. We should do that.
Well, that's awesome, because right at that moment they were thinking about it, and you were, you know, it was captive audience.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
been great.
really cool.
Mhm.
That's the first time anyone's taken the plunge with radio advertising, and it's really cool. It wasn't that long ago that your ad aired, right? And you've already gotten a client from it.
Yeah, and I've talked to them about extending the ad as well. So
Perfect. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
Okay, what are other things people have done?
I will also just like to say, and I'm sure this is talked about a lot in supervision, but not to say no to things when given the opportunity to try. So for me, building my clientele came around a lot of just taking clients that I maybe wasn't comfortable taking at first, just to see how it would go. I never said I told myself to always say yes at least once. And it's a really good thought process to take, because you never know where you may find a strength you didn't know you had, or actually really enjoy a clientele that you didn't know you would like. I always said I would never work with old people. And then I got some, and they're great. And I really enjoy working with them. Not to say that that's like my niche. Please don't send me all the old people. But when they come, I really enjoy it. And I wouldn't have known that had I have not, really dove into that. So whether it be addiction or eating disorders, something that maybe you have to do a lot of research around prior to seeing a client, you can really find out a lot about yourself as a counselor by saying yes to things you may be normally really uncomfortable and ready to say no to at first.
Well, it's interesting because Darlene spoke about that this morning on a different call. And, you know, you have right now, it's like the world is your oyster. And, you know, I never thought that I would want to, like, I have 5 kids. I don't even like kids, let alone that I want to work with them. And like, who knew that I run the play therapy program, right? Or, yeah, there are just different niches that you don't really realize that you will work well with in the capacity. So again, maybe in my personal life, kids aren't my thing, but in my professional life, kids are my thing. And what Darlene said was that, you know, you have all of these people, you have your peer supervision, you have every one of us surrounding you that have had different walks of life who may have experience. You've got the supervisor, you've got Marianne, right? So now is the time for you to experiment and take those clients. And if you find that it's something you enjoy, then that's something where you go back and you do more education, right? And you do the research that'll spawn you, and it also keep you passionate about what you do. And it's a niche market for you. For example, right now, we don't have anybody that is exclusively working with eating disorders, right? So people are
Not even
taking
exclusively, not trained or has identified it as a specialty
yes,
area.
sorry.
Even
Yeah.
if they have other clients.
I would say that I have several of them, and they came out of nowhere. So
yeah. So I guess Cindy's giving you more and more of them.
So that's another thing, when you start getting clients and you find out that you're good at it, or people keep coming to you for something specific, you're probably looking to getting some training in that area, because the world's kind of sending you that for a reason. I just wanted to say quickly, in a panel interview this morning with the intern applicants, at the end, one of them asked me, it was a great question, what attributes make people successful where, like in your business at Crossroads, and which ones miss the mark and why? Like
Who asked that question, Marianne?
Wendy.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, go ahead.
And so I said, in my view, the people that are the most successful are the ones that say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Because when you say yes, you get experience, you like Stacy said, you find out you're good at things you didn't know you were good at. Like people ask me, what makes a good counselor in this way or that way? And the answer is we don't always really know until you go and do it and start finding out what skills you have, or what kind of clientele really likes you, right? Apparently a certain type if they keep finding you, then you're probably being called to do some work in that area. So that's what I said about always say yes. It's absolutely the number one thing that makes you successful, especially at Crossroads. As soon as you start saying no, and I get why people say no, but I'm telling you, as soon as you start to say no, it kind of sends out, it like puts up barriers around you, and you just don't get the same inflow of clients with the same experiences. I don't.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, the admin people spend a lot of time and they're invested in doing those intake calls, and they're excited because they think this is a perfect match for you. So they're selling you, right? And so when they go to you and you're like, then all of a sudden they become deflated, and you've created more work for them because now they have to go back to the drawing board, right? And to call the client back and say, this counselor doesn't really feel comfortable.
To move you, yeah.
Yeah.
After they just sold you, so you got to keep that in mind, right? They're doing work to try to build you up, and if you go back and say no, it does create a bit of barrier between you and the people giving you clients too. Michael, your hand's been up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, alongside of the medical offices, like me and Charlene went out to the medical offices and dropped off some cards a while back, but that's a great resource to use. And also the clubhouses in the Lower Mainland, if you are in the Lower Mainland, and clients, and that's a population that needs counseling very often. So just getting your name out there as well. So just another option as well.
Did you take business cards, or did you run groups there, or how did you get your name out there?
Oh, I've done business cards there. I've done remember the door knockers that we had? They're there.
Yeah.
And I've run groups out of there as well. So I mean, it's about putting yourself out there, and I've really come to learn that in my practice as well. Is just you've got to be it's true. You have to say yes to a lot of the clients that are coming through the door because they're seeking you for a reason, and you've got to be there for them. So yeah.
I always ask people when they come to see me, if I know they've picked me, I'm like, so why me? I specifically want to know, what is it about me? Did they read my bio? Did they watch a video? Do they know I specialize in something? I always ask where your clients are coming from. Like Gurdeep, especially if I was advertising on the radio like Gurdeep, I'd want to know if they heard my ad, where'd you get my name from? Did you just look me up? Did you pick me, or did the intake people assign you? Like it's just, you don't ask it in those words, but that's the kind of information you're trying to gather. Is, it's great that you're here. I'm just wondering, it looks like you picked me. What drew you here?
And the other thing is that when people know that you have a niche in a certain area within the clinic, then they'll start referring you, right? So let's say you're having a session with a mom, and then you find out that her daughter's best friend has an eating disorder, and you'll be like, we have a great therapist here. Her name's Stacy, and she does eating disorders, right? So you're getting that internal referral as well.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Michael, for that. Loretta.
Hi, first of all, I want to say I'm done my master's, and I finished my capstone. I'm going for my RCC now. So
yay, good for you. Congrats.
And Darlene, I need you. So I have a new couples session that I started. But what I wanted to say too is the professional videos that we did, Lisa, that I feel that's really helped me, because I've had clients look at them and they're booking with me themselves. So I think that's a big change from my cell phone videos
Wow, oh, you mean, because you just did those videos like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and now I'm getting these bookings, and these guys like, well, one lady who's older said, well, when I watch your video, you look like you could be my girlfriend, so I wanted to book with you. I'm like, oh wow, so she watched the video. And I thought those the professional videos, I think they're a good draw, and I think they look really good and professional. So
Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because on next Friday,
So this Friday.
tomorrow, oh goodness, tomorrow, we booked Jeremy at $250 an hour. I made a mistake, she put 250 for the day. No, it's $250 an hour, and he's booked from 1 to 9 tomorrow. And I have 2 people that signed up to do their videos. That's it.
and he's so good. He's so nice and so easy go. It was like way easier and faster doing it with him than me doing it on myself. It took me hours to do like a 15-second video myself, but he was so good, and he's so like, I really enjoyed it. It was a good experience, and he does such a good job. So everyone, you do it. It's worth it.
So don't fear, we have other videos for him to do, and we're gonna pull you guys in, whoever's there tomorrow, to do some videos with us not talking. We will rebook him again, but I highly recommend.
I'm going
based on
to
what Loretta's
interject.
saying, is that we
I'm
redo
going to
them.
interject right here.
Yeah,
Barcelona people would love to have one. Just saying.
yeah, and we have
Well-
plans for him to come up actually.
Like,
to
please
Kelowna.
don't forget about us in this little town.
No, we actually have plans for him to come up as well.
I'm so jealous of all of your guys' videos. I've watched them all and I'm like, no, I want one.
Yeah, he's coming up, and he's gonna be doing, once we were waiting for you to finish decorating your office, which clearly you just did. So now we can bring Jeremy up, and we'll do the videos in the fall, and he's gonna do professional videos
Perfect.
of the
I
Kelowna
can't
office.
wait.
Yeah, you haven't been forgotten.
Yeah, don't worry. We're working on it. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Loretta, because I know for those of you that we wanted the professional videos, but like Lisa said, we hired this guy, we pay a lot of money, and nobody signs up and participates, or no, not nobody, but not enough people, that there's still so many selfie videos. I insisted on the professional video. Lisa said we just need to get something out there, so I understand everyone came on at different times, but I totally agree with Loretta. People watch those videos. I can see on YouTube how many people are watching them and who's getting the views, and how, you can just tell based on what people want to click on. So please definitely do one if you can. Charlene, go ahead.
Yes, to add to this point, Lisa, you know how I felt about my video. I've had my last, I think, 6 new clients that booked themselves online, watch those videos. And I personally thought mine was just like, I can't even look at it again. But it actually, I guess it's more about your demeanor or your warmth or your characteristics and qualities that you may not be able to write down that people pick up on. And that's what that's the feedback that I've gotten, because the first thing I usually ask clients that have booked themselves is, oh, okay, how did you find me, or what made you interested in joining, and having the space with me. And another thing that I wanted to add, because I do have a client at 5, is word of mouth. I think I've gotten a good 50%. My clients, I know at least, 1 or 2 or 3 family members from the same home. Or I've got a cluster gaggle of best friends, because I think sometimes people have the misconception that we don't have the ability to compartmentalize and the confidentiality and that. And I found that even when I say to people like, oh, my best friend would be, I'm like, send her in, or I had a wife, I'm like, why don't you send your husband in? If he doesn't like this, you're not going to know about anything we talk about, but just send him in. He's never been in counseling. He hasn't left. Because I think there's a bit of safety with when a loved one recommends another person. She's like, you know what, Charlene's just been on me. Can you just come in and just try this for me? And that's been remarkably successful. And I personally, when I was a novice counselor, I was really surprised at how easy it was for me to forget the other person's story, and that when this person was sitting in front of me, they were just this brand new, unique entity, to the point where I would forget a spouse's name. like, well, you know, my wife, and I'm like kind of going through my brain because this is a completely separate thing. So something that was kind of intimating to me is actually something that I've really enjoyed. So that was something that I found was really helpful in marketing.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's the number one way to get clients is we all know that. If another trusted loved one or somebody in your life says to you, this person's good, you will trust that over anything you see on the internet, over anything you read on Google, right? I mean, some people don't want to tell other people they're going to counseling. It doesn't work all the time, but I would definitely tell people if you have any openings in your schedule, if you're, especially if they say something nice to you, that's when I take the opportunity to do it. If they're like, you've been so helpful to me, like that's the best compliment that you could ever give me. And I'm actually kind of opening up my schedule and building. So if you know anyone else who think I could help, would love for you to send them my way. Like
So a
people
couple-
already like you and trust you. You can do that.
So a couple of points, it's kind of odd to be able to ask people to do like a positive review on our Google website, but some people do. The play therapists do it great because people will always say, oh, my kids got help. But whereas you say, hey, I have an addiction and really got some help. You know, maybe people don't want to do that. So that's a little bit more difficult. But one of the things that I was really good at doing too, and this takes a really strong therapist and maybe somebody with a, you know, just a lot of confidence in themselves, but I would see individual clients and then I would see them as a couple and then I would do family therapy. And so there, you need to seek supervision on this, on how to do it and how to, you know, not to make sure that you don't have the dual relationships and that you're not biased. But as a therapist, and certainly those of you that are seeing couples and want to do family therapy, if you see somebody as an individual and you think that you can keep the confidentiality and not be biased, and you can see a couple, then that adds another appointment type. Plus, when you do couples and you do family therapy work, it's billed at a higher rate. So you're making more money. But it is a lot harder work, right? Seeing couples is a lot harder than seeing an individual. And so I encourage you to, if you're thinking about that and from coming from a family system lens, and if you're seeing couples, then you can do that. But you will need to talk to Jerry Lynn, Darlene, and Marianne on how to navigate those relationships.
Yeah, it's not impossible if they're working to, you know, to similar goals. For example, I saw a couple on Monday or Tuesday, and I said to them, you know, I think I'd really like to see you individually before we have our next session together. And it doesn't mean I become their individual counselor, but it means I can sit with them and not have to worry about hurting the other person's feelings. So if I sense one of them's guarded, then I get them to add an individual session and I keep maintaining the couple session. So that's not just to get business. It's obviously because that's what I think is required therapeutically. But take
that should be the precedent
and make it work, right? What's that?
I'm saying that should be the foremost, right? Like we're talking a limited time, but it has to be because it's a therapeutic reason, not for you to grow your practice. But it can be an adjunct and help you build your practice.
That's what I'm saying. Take what you already have and understand that that's your biggest resource. What you already have is your biggest resource. It takes work and money and time to get things from the outside. So anything that gets in your room, I don't want to use a spider and fly analogy, but the idea is once they're there, you're going to help them. They're going to be happy with you for the most part. And you're going to take that and allow that to grow, right? So that's where word of mouth and mentioning to them that you have time, or if they happen to know anyone that needs support, you'd be happy to help them too. You can throw those things in there. It doesn't sound cocky. You're just letting them know. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people think you're busy and you're not available to everybody else. Mm-hmm. Okay, any other things people have done in the community? One thing I think that you've done really well, Brent, for example, is, and Stacy brought it up, think about what makes you unique as a person, but think about all the different networks you possibly have in your life. People entirely forget, like Stacy said, she went and talked to her diabetic specialist and was like, hey, I'm now a counselor and you know I have experience in this and blah, blah, blah. So then the person goes, oh, I like that client. We already have a relationship. You see them regularly. They're then going to ask, how's your counseling practice going? And then the next client comes in, they're struggling with their mental health, dealing with a chronic illness, and Stacy's top of mind. And the guy's like, you know what? There's actually someone that would really understand what you're going through, and you can go get this kind of counseling. Just tell your doctor, tell the medical professionals you have relationships with, tell your massage therapist while you're getting a massage or whatever. There's all these people, like literally, it's not just sales, but like everyone you talk to can spread information for you so that it's not just you doing it. So you want to start spreading it, and then you want to hope that they spread it, right? More people doing the work, the less work you have to do. So, Jordi, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that because like if you have another job that you're also working on the side, like a lot of us do, because I mean, can't survive on one job alone in this day and age. Even your coworkers who you work with, like I work at a physical therapist office, and I've had two of the physical therapists and their clients be like, oh, you know what? Gurdeep at reception, she's a counselor. Maybe you should go talk to her and get her business card if you're feeling like that low and down, and even just put word of mouth and where you're working.
Yeah, everything is through word of mouth. Well, the other thing, I mean, word of mouth is really big. The other thing is the Psychology Today profile. I actually just watched, there's a woman, she just did a podcast. She actually built a practice similar to what Marianne and I did. And she sold it after 4 years, and she had about 50 associates. And she gives a lot of advice on how to write your Psychology Today profile. And I was listening to it and I was like, hey, that's what I told everybody to do, right? So my instinct in terms of my marketing background was bang on. But in talking with the marketing SEO people that we work with, Psychology Today is the highest Google ranked website. So if you want to be seen, you have to be on Psychology Today. And how I've told you guys how to write those write-ups is super important, because that's what's getting the clicks and getting you higher in the algorithm. The other thing is that I've said, you guys make sure you put the info at Crossroads, and then make sure you use our actual phone number, because what it's doing is as people are clicking, they're seeing the same phone number, the same email. So that helps with the brand recognition. For those of you that haven't uploaded the Crossroads logo or furniture, pictures of your furniture or office, you should do that as well. But what's also happening is that if everybody is putting the info at Crossroads and our phone number, then we have somebody managing your desk 7 days a week from 9 to 9. We're able to pick up those leads for you. So if something comes in for Gurdeep, we're going to try and book them in with Gurdeep, because that's what the client chose. But if for whatever reason the schedule doesn't work out, or there's a conflict of interest or something, then we're going to give that lead to another internal therapist, right? And so that's what we're finding is a lot of our counselors are actually getting bookings and leads from other Psychology Today profiles that are coming in, because we've made a real push and had some of the senior associates change their Psychology Today over to the info at Crossroads. And also we're there, like when somebody is sending an email, they're looking for help in crisis at that moment. So they're emailing 10 different counselors on Psychology Today. So whoever gets to answer them first with an empathetic connection are the ones that get the business. So that's super important as well.
Yes, thanks, Lisa. And so I had this happen the other day. I had 17 emails on my phone when I got out of a counseling session. And I guess I saw this email that was like a website intake form where somebody was contacting me through it. And then I carried on with my day. And 2 days later, I realized I hadn't responded to it or done anything with it, because it came in at the same time 17 other things came in, and there was urgent stuff and WhatsApp messages and Slack messages and whatever. So I finally found it, and it went to my personal email, not my business email. So I just lost track of it in my busyness. I got back to the guy and I never heard anything again. So I completely lost the lead, and he specifically messaged me through my own website, not through the Crossroads website. So it coming to me causes me to lose the lead, but I didn't realize that it went to a different inbox. So I was searching my business inbox for the guy's name, because I remembered it, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Then I was scrolling my own inbox. So that's just one reason why everything should go to info. That is what they do. They respond to clients all the time, quickly. They pick up the phone when clients call. It just makes sense. It's work that you guys don't have to do. Johnny, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So just one thing. I did like everything. I emailed all the churches. I contacted my past network. Everywhere I volunteered, I handed out my business cards. I put up posters in libraries and supermarkets and everywhere I could think of.
And Johnny,
everyone
you're
I
the
talk
talk of the
to,
town. Did you know you're the talk of the town? Because
well,
everybody's
yeah.
talking about how well that you're doing and how much your caseload is growing. I just did your payroll today. So kudos, I wanted to actually congratulate you. All that effort that you put in, people are talking about it and they're saying they're saying how much of an improvement they're seeing just in your overall booking because you did the work. So congratulations.
100%.
Yeah.
I cut you off though. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, basically what I wanted to just end on, the point I wanted to drive home was consistency is key. Like, don't do it once and think that's good enough. I mean, I wouldn't have made a living being a sales rep for 10 plus years if once was good enough, right?
Yeah, keep doing it, right? Keep following up. Yeah. Anybody else have their hands up? I don't see anybody. Let's talk about, is anybody struggling with or finding it really difficult? Maybe, we're talking, I bet you we're like the Myers-Briggs extroverts, right? But maybe sometimes for some of the introverts, it's really hard to put yourself out there and be a salesperson. That's why you're a counselor. Are any of you struggling? And just being open and honest and vulnerable and raw about this, because that's the truth, right? Maybe you are struggling. It's hard for you to put yourself out there. Are any of you guys feeling that way? Or not that you're willing to admit?
There's one intern, I won't speak to their name, but I just personally noticed a big shift, and I actually still don't know what caused the shift, that they had sort of a difficulty maybe getting going, and then all of a sudden I'm just seeing tons of clients in their schedule, and I honestly don't know what they did, because it was pretty drastic. I would like to find out one day, so I'll ask them personally. Thank you to those that I know have to go. You have clients and things, but you popped on today and your insights were all very, very helpful. So I know if you're heading out for a 5 p.m. commitment, go enjoy that. And thanks again for coming. What was I saying? Oh, so I don't know what that intern did. I mean, I assumed that there was maybe a buildup of confidence over time, or maybe a sense of you get a couple clients and it starts to build momentum, and all of a sudden you feel a little better about your skills, and then you are able to rebook better or make better treatment plans. I don't really know, but I think everything you guys do, if you do it with intention, it will just start coming to you, right? Market with intention, talk to people about what you do, show your passion for what you do. Today we did a panel interview with 4 applicants, and I would say they were all very passionate about why they got into this profession. And they were convincing to me, right? When they were just faces on a screen and I'm just giving them all the warnings of the difficulties of working Crossroads, and the joys, but the difficulties. They were just sitting there, but then Darlene asked them, like, what got you into this profession? And it was very enjoyable to listen to their answers and their stories. And if you talk about your passions and how you want to help people and what you do, and even successes you've had or whatever, people get excited by that. That's what we say when we say sell it. That's what we mean. We don't mean fake it. We don't mean make something up. Like, you all invested and got into this career for a reason. People should know about it, right? If you're excited about it, let other people know. So I really think being shameless in that regard is key.
The other thing is, if you are struggling and you want to do some one-on-one, I'm happy to do that with you. We can even do some smaller sessions together with a bunch of people. So, if you didn't feel like you could have a voice here today and didn't feel, didn't want to put yourself out there, you can also message me. I'm happy to sit down with you, right, and help you build a marketing plan. That was the intention, right? I'm like, marketing plans. But not everybody wants to do marketing plans or likes to do marketing plans or knows how to do marketing plans. And me, I'm like, get up in the morning, let's do a marketing plan, right?
See, Lisa's passionate about it, because she talks about it all the time. It's something she likes. So that's the other thing. Use the people that are passionate about it. Like, you can get me to talk for a long time if you ask me about something I'm passionate about, right? It's human nature. It's not that hard to figure out. Darlene, go ahead.
I think I have spoken to many of the interns about how you find out what your passion is. And I didn't know really for a long time what was my passion. And all of a sudden, I started having a lot of the same kind of clients that when I got up from the session, I felt so rejuvenated, and the client got so much from it. And then I realized it was in that theme that that was my passion. So when I know we feel good about being an intern and being new counselors, but sometimes there are certain themes and certain areas of expertise that we really fit well, and it just feels so good when you're finished. So that's often where you have to keep looking at. You could continue your building on that purpose through that passion.
Thanks, Darlene.
Yeah, excellent.
Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah, the passion part's really important. And yes, after a couple sessions, I'm totally amped. I feel like I can run a marathon. So love it. Anyway, off topic. What I wanted to say, and this sort of brings the ick factor, but this is something that Stacy recommended to me when we did the grief group. She was like, why don't you go to funeral homes? And I was like, well, that's sort of creepy, Stacy, but it's really not a bad idea. So if it's work that you do, go to funeral homes.
I agree.
I haven't gotten myself to go there yet, but it's not a bad idea.
What about even the amount of, I won't say trauma, but the other people's stuff that funeral directors that didn't go to school for years to be, you know, counselors, essentially, they went to learn how to run a ceremony or whatever, and they are dealing constantly with so much grief. I bet you the people that work at the funeral homes could use the counseling. So you're not just getting them to tell their clients about it. You're going there and saying, hey, we offer grief counseling. I know you work in a field that's really heavy. If you guys are ever interested or looking for support, we specialize in this, and drop your stuff off, right? If you go to them, it's no work for them. Keep that in mind. If they have to go online and be like, who are the counselors that work in grief in Langley? They have to go and do work. If you go to them, they don't. So that's funny because Stacey told me about that today and I laughed as she suggested it, but it's not, you're not trying to take advantage. You know, that's a population that needs support. So that's where you let people know that you can be a support. I think it's a great idea. Sherry Lynn, go ahead.
We have a funeral director on our local critical incident stress management team, and I can confirm there are 0 supports. Coroners, funeral directors, nothing for them in the way of support. So
yeah. So kind of like emergency services, right? Like if you're going to be someone who works with RCMP that are first responders or paramedics or whatever, if you want to work in grief, go find the professionals that deal with it all the time. Yeah. Thank you, Jerry Lynn, for confirming my suspicion.
Well, I think this is a great start. I think we should call this brainstorming 101 session 1. We covered off a lot of stuff. I think this is great also when we, you know, have new applicants that start, you know, new interns that are looking, you know, I think this gives a good picture, and hearing your voices to be able to speak to that is so valuable. And so I really appreciate, I know that we sort of had to hound some of you to come today, but it's because we wanted you here, because we wanted to hear your voice and your experience. So I just wanted to thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I'm going to power down the recording. We appreciate everybody's input and your time and energy. And thank you for coming, even if you're not a regular Thursday attendee.